shit, fuck.
And that is how I feel about having to redo my 14-minute audio. Welcome back over to GamingHouse YouTube, and I'm bringing you the State of Decay Year 1 Survival Edition, which is a mouthful to say, so I'm going to try and just refer to it as State of Decay. And like I said before, I had to redo my 14-minute audio, because reasons I don't know. But without further ado, State of Decay is developed by Undead Labs, which I believe back on the 360, that was the first game they developed together. And it is published by Microsoft Studios, so this game is exclusively for 360 and Xbox One. Specifically, the Year 1 Survival Edition is for the Xbox One and actually I think also PC. As always with all my reviews from this point forward and a couple back and all that, there is in the description below, there's a spoiler-free version because I am bound to blurt out spoilers at some point, so be prepared for that if that does happen. As always, check the description below if you want spoiler-free. Also check it afterwards, also, because half the time I miss stuff I'm saying, and I'll add it to the description below. Positive, negatives, and arguable points are all there to be seen, as well as personal points that I've experienced and done in the game. State of Decay is a single-player experience, sandbox, third-person game with zombies in it, so that's exciting. And the Year 1 Survival, I don't know why I'm trying to call it that, the State of Decay HD version, or whatever you want to call it, is also bundled with the 3 DLCs. Well, no, 2 DLCs, my bad. And we're going to go ahead and start breaking down what was newly added to this compared to the other editions. The features that were added were a new mission type, which is a supply drop mission from this mysterious person or thing, Cleo, which will drop in a random batch of supplies from food to construction materials and all that. Also bundled with a melee weapon and 1 or 2 guns, or at least as it gets further along, the more drops that come in, the more supplies that are dropped. As well as the unarmed melee combat is now replaced with a knife, which if you pre-ordered and all that, you get a different knife from whatever retailer you did. Graphics and the textures and everything got a bit of a redone, not redo. The zombie animations got worked over some more, as well as less of the wonky stuff that happens. You know, some of the wonky stuff does happen, but we'll get to that later. Let's go ahead and get started into breaking down the actual State of Decay game itself, the actual story mode. You play as any number of protagonists that you find within this world, because again, it is a sandbox. The entire area is procedurally generated for that run. Buildings that have materials may not have materials and all that the next time you play through. You may find different characters, with the exception of several scripted characters that are meant to be found by you. For instance, you start off as Marcus Campbell, along with his friend N. Jones, who later recruits Maya, who's a soldier and all that, within the first tutorial area that you are in. And later on you'll find others and all that, but everything else besides story missions is procedurally generated. You do it on your own, besides the side stuff as well. But beyond the tutorials and all that, the overall goal is still getting out of Trumbull County. You go ahead, you play around the areas a little bit, eventually military collapse and all that happens within the area, and you go across the previously barricaded area to the military zone, which you find to be destroyed, and then eventually after more playing around in that area, or still staying in your area but looting that area, you eventually get the mission to finally escape by blowing a hole through the barricade that is the only way out of the county. And that pretty much will sum up the brief summary of the State of Decay main game. I'm not saying a lot, but that's because this is a sandbox. There's mega fuck tons of shit to do that I can't really talk about unless I want to make this like 20 minutes long, and the last one was 14 minutes long. Alright, so the next thing we're going to talk about is breaking down breakdown. And yes, I had pre-planned that pun there. But breakdown is essentially a more sandbox version of the original game. Instead, story mode is completely removed. It is entirely the random generated person that you pick, or any of the heroes you'll unlock doing numerous tasks that if you choose to go through again, you can now select them as your starting character. And heroes are essentially just souped up regular characters. There are people that were in the story mode that had names, or people that were just randomly generated that now have a name. They got souped up stats and all that. Start off with weapons and great stuff that you normally wouldn't find. But the overall goal of breakdown is to see how long you can last. You're put in the same Trumbull County, pick a place you want to go, sit there, earn as much points as you can. Whenever you feel like you soaked soaked up all the resources or feel like moving on to a harder challenge, you find an RV, repair the RV, and then you select, I think it's 5 or 4 people of your group, including yourself, and you then move on to the next area, which is again Trumbull County again, except everything is refreshed. The enemies are a little bit harder, less vehicles spawn in and they're more damaged, less resources, and increasing the difficulty the more and more times that you keep clearing the area by repairing the RV and moving on. Of course, also going up in difficulty unlocks more challenges to do, to unlock more heroes to play as and find. And as well as with the Year 1 Survival Edition, they updated it so they took 4 characters from Lifeline now, including one of my favorites who was like an incredibly long name, like Sergeant Kelly Eldridge Royal something or other the third. He was a fun character in Lifeline, and I'm glad to get to play as him. In fact, the gameplay you're seeing is with him. You know, if you want to play as Spec Ops badass guy that's got awesome beard. And of course, speaking of Spec Ops badass guy, let's get into Lifeline, considering that is where he's actually originally from. Now, Lifeline is one of my favorite additions to this game out of, you know, the 2, simply because it gave a brand new map to play in, as well as a brand new perspective. You actually get to play as part of a military unit that is outside of the city that's near Trumbull County. And with them, they are actually trying to both stave off the infection in the area by quarantining the city, which isn't quite working out because zombies are still leaking out to come attack your base, as well as trying to find this doctor who immediately then, after you find him, commits suicide due to him not properly understanding the zombie lore of the game. And afterwards, you are instead trying to find all people who may have knowledge of his research and getting them out, as well as being tasked to also save other HVTs of son of, I believe, a governor or rich guy or what have you, and all that. Also while trying to find other civilians that you're willing to find and rescue and extract them. And with Lifeline also came more gunplay. Since you're playing as the military, you get to use your guns a lot more often than you would in the other modes, considering you have plenty of ammo, as well as the ability to call in more ammo and weapons from your military support that's outside of the quarantine area. Now let's just get down into the more technical points and all that. Some of the bad stuff in this game is on a technical scale. Zombies sometimes being unaffected by weapons. Sometimes zombies will also still clip through walls and all. This is all stuff from the 360 version. It doesn't happen as often, but it does still happen. So you always got to be on your toes with zombies. Never assume you're safe, because they can go through walls and doors sometimes. Sometimes they'll still warp underneath porches, making them a pain in the ass to try and kill. AI teammates are still rather ditzy-ish when trying to get into vehicles. At least trying to get into vehicles in a hurry, because they'll sit there and walk in front of the truck or car and not get into the side passenger doors as a mob of 20 zombies are coming outside of the house to kill you. I believe there was also I didn't quite experience that, or I was too blind to see it. Some have reported issues of frame rate drops and textures still not loading or what have you, but I didn't experience that, or at least not much of that to have noticed it. Now, of course, some good points I didn't cover is, of course, this game is very, very fun, which will lead into the final score finally after this. Is this game has an overwhelming amount of replay value. Going through the same time, of course, again, everything's procedurally generated, so no 2 plays are quite the same. Your strategy and all that might still be the same, but you're not guaranteed to find the same things every time. Several playthroughs, I don't find a whole lot of guns sometimes. Other playthroughs, I don't find a whole lot of materials for the stuff I want to get, forcing me to go out to other places to try and find them. Other times, I might want to challenge myself. Maybe I want to stay in the church you first find in the game, which is your first home base. Maybe I want to stay there the entire time. All that is up to you to do. You're able to do that. You don't have to play the way the game wants you to play. In fact, they don't tell you how to play the game. They say this is what you do, and then go about doing it. Your characters, both in the main game, in fact, all characters in all the game, you're going to find characters that you love to play as, characters that have this skill set that you want to use, or the personalities and etc., which even though they don't exchange much dialogue and the personalities aren't quite fleshed out, at least like what they say for like in their little character cards, they do have some role in the game. Particularly also back in the Homestead, some personalities will clash with each other, creating, you know, melodrama you don't actually experience, but it affects morality and you got to fix that, unfortunately. Now, the final score for the game, again, this is all with my personal experience, personal bias, and etc. I give this game a 9 out of 10. I really enjoy this game. I want to see this game grow as a franchise. And the reason I give it a 9 out of 10 is, despite some of the ugly technical stuff that I've said, it's pretty much you have to get past that, and then the rest of the game is actually pure fun for you. Always wanting to challenge yourself if you're one of those, role-playing if you're into that as well. There's a lot to do in this game. There's a lot of replay value in it. There's stories and all that you could come up with. Here's one from mine. Back when I first played State of Decay, the game that ran by itself when you weren't playing it, and there was the community continues to live on, and they still do in this game, but it's much slowed down and much less well, nerfed because people don't die. Back when I first played this game, people could die when you weren't playing. I came back after a night of sleep, and this is one of my community members turned to a zombie and ate my medic and construction worker. So that was fun. That was fun to turn on the game too. But you are going to create stories for yourself in this game, or the game will end up creating stories for you. Each playthrough is going to be a different experience and overall fun. Of course, you do have to get over the little hump in the beginning, and once you start off, you get overwhelmed with missions and all that, until you at least you switch around and start leveling people up so they're less incompetent. Now, as for whether or not to get this game is $30. $30 for everything I just listed, for possible hundreds of hours of gameplay, depending on how much you want to play the game, which you're definitely going to get your money's worth on a $30 deal. And if you already played it on 360, you actually get $10 off, so it's actually $20 then. And if you play it on 360, there's a few new things, but it's mostly still the same game, so that is up to you as to whether or not you wish to purchase the game again for the new generation of console. You know, the Xbox One, not PlayStation. Sorry, PlayStation, you don't get this game. But I would say get it, just because I definitely got it, because I want to support Undead Labs. I want them to continue this franchise. They tend to grow it into something more, and I want to see it grow into something more. And, well, that's going to be it for this. As always, like, comment, all that fun YouTube-y stuff. Twitter's down below if you want to follow for more updates. Check out the channel if you want to see more videos, more reviews, more other stuff I've been doing. And as always, you're welcome to come back over to GamingHouse for more gameplay and commentary. Oh, and also don't forget to check the description box below, again, for more bullet points and all that stuff I possibly missed and all that. Should probably mention that before I did the outro. Damn it.